Anita, thank you so much for joining me on Vitality Women Leading Audaciously. I am so excited to have Anita here as our guest today to share with you her story, a little bit about her business and her mothering. So, Anita, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of what led you to do what you do?
Well, that's a long, circuitous story. I have been call it a fashionista since I was in elementary school. So fashion was very important to me. Growing up in junior high, I took 2 years of home ec. So we did sewing in addition to cooking. So what brought me back to this was a life journey of a divorce with the father of my children. And in doing that, I got to discover for the first time myself as an adult and looking at what it is I wanted to do with my life. Now, I wish I would have said I figured it out like right away.
Wouldn't that have been nice?
Yeah, it took about 6 years post-divorce for me to kind of settle into being single, and being, a household manager, as well as, a parent to my 2 daughters who were 7 and 9 when we divorced. They are now 16 and a half and 18. So one actually graduated high school. One is a junior in high school. So I, as I said, it was not a straight route. I did everything for my kids. I was a stay-at-home mom. I also homeschooled for the first 5 years, teaching them reading, math, logic, foreign language, you name it, we did it. So they never had preschool outside of the home. It wasn't until they actually went to school later, which was junior kindergarten, but their junior kindergarten, because it was private, was more like a kindergarten class. So it was a little more elevated than what people would think when I say junior kindergarten. It was like, yeah, but I said they were doing, 5-year-old homework for those classes. So once I had them settled, that's why I said it was a 6-year process. Once I had them settled into their lives and assisting them with their healing, I then was able to focus more on me. And that's when I discovered by accident, I don't even know, I think I saw probably an ad on Facebook about, clothes you could design on demand. So when people, print on demand. So when people ordered something, it would then be cut and sewn and sent out, because that was the easiest way and the most cost efficient way. Because I think you're probably very aware, most brands, it takes a minimum of 300,000 to start a brand and manufacture and do all that sort of thing. And I was
dollars or quantity, like of
$300 dollars.
Yeah. Well,
yeah. So yeah, it's expensive to manufacture your own things, especially as a newcomer.
Totally.
Yeah. So I went the print on demand route, and with everything that I do, it starts off easy. So the first shop I had was urban wear. So we did everything from t-shirts to flannel shirts to joggers to jeans, all of that. And then from doing that, I branched off into t-shirts, which is where I formed Whimzy Tees, because I was just not happy with the quality that I was seeing out there. And because a lot of the product came from China. And so we also had quality issues and we had sizing issues.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not fit for the American physique. So that caused a lot of issues and a lot of like returns, exchanges and things like that.
Sure.
And so, so I came across another print provider and started with t-shirts. And that's how Whimzy Tees was born. And as usual with things that I do, as I said, it starts simple and then it just expands from there and it gets not more complicated, but more levels are added. So I started with t-shirts and then I said, you know what? I want to do leggings and sweatshirts and hoodies, complete outfit. So you can buy a whole complete coordinated outfit. You don't have to think about your fashion choices because not everybody has a strong, sense of self or sense of fashion sense.
That's true. And we don't usually talk about that as women. It's almost like it's assumed that because you're a woman, you have a fashion sense. And that's not always the case.
Yeah. So these are, I don't know if you know of the brand, because I remember from the 70s, it's called Garanimals for kids.
Not really, no. I don't it's not front of mind.
Garanimals was like, it made it easy for parents. You could just go into the store and everything was prepackaged together. So it came with the, the top, the pants, if you needed like a hat or whatever, everything was coordinated together. So you didn't have to think about it. You just picked out something that you liked and you knew you had all the coordinated pieces. Well, that's basically how I look at Whimzy Tees. We're like granimals for adults.
I love it.
So
Nice.
you don't have to think. It's like if you decide on a print that you like one of the things behind here, when you go to that print, you'll see everything that I've made to coordinate with it.
Yeah. So for those of you who are just listening and who aren't watching the video, Anita has like very colorful, beautiful prints on her own shirt, as well as the shirts that are behind her. And these are examples of her beautiful t-shirts. And it's so not only t-shirts, but I'm sure prints that you find on the other items as well in the full look, I would assume, right?
Yeah, it always starts, the inspiration starts with a picture. And sometimes it's not even a picture. It could be easy. It's like sometimes even on a TV show, I'll see a print and I go, oh my God, I need to like do something with this, right? So then I put my own spin on it. And then with the shirts and well, t-shirts too, as well as the sweatshirts, you'll see there's a lot of patterns. So it's not, this was the initial print. And then we have so many patterns. So just on the sleeves alone, I've got 2 different patterns here. So it's finding those digital backgrounds.
It's really original. I love it. I just wanted to fill those listeners in who can't see you right now. Something else that really struck me as you were telling your story was about once your kids were settled and you had assisted them, you didn't say those words, but in their healing, you said. And I think this is really something we don't hear a lot. And I just can tell through the language choice, the words you chose. That's just the reality, right? Until our kids are like, okay, like they're not some kind of like sickness or some kind of like learning difference or some kind of like crisis. Like I feel so impossible to like have the space, energy, time to create something new, like Whimzy Tees, or even your own life, I would say after my divorce, it took about 6 years. So I'm really on the same page with you around that. Like, who am I in this new role? Still mom, but no longer wife and identifying as such. And it's really a process, isn't it, of unfolding, unveiling, and again, until my daughter was like in a learning environment that worked for her, like I couldn't really move forward powerfully with my professional life or even my personal life.
So yeah, it was a transition. I definitely will not say it was an easy transition. And it's something for my own healing that my kids weren't even made aware of until recently. Because I wanted them to know that, yeah, I put on a brave face and I look like I have it all together all the time, but I don't. And I have told them that the divorce was the hardest thing I've ever gone through in my life. And that literally I cried every day for a year. And that I would drive them to school, get them to their classroom, come back into the car, and the waterworks would start. So, and I did that every day for a year. And only now, 9 years later, do my kids even have a glimpse into that story.
Right. Yeah. No, it's really big. It's really, really big. And I love how you followed something that is part of your like your makeup. I don't know how to describe it, but going back to that time when you were young and you loved fashion, you called yourself a fashionista. It's so beautiful to be able to, and when you mentioned Whimzy Tees, like you just lit up, so it was really clear that this is like a playful, creative, fun creation that you're doing. It's so beautiful. I mean, so how do you do
I have
it all?
I have a lot of fun with it, and it's also part of my healing because it was tapping back into that childhood wonder and getting back into having fun in life, but also fun in my clothing choices, and not dressing according to how people think you should dress at a certain age or stage of your life.
So true. I mean, because how we dress is also how we're seen, how we're judged, and how people relate to and with us. I don't know if you know this, but I was actually in the fashion business from age 18 to when I left my marriage and life in Europe in like 28, right? So it's the decade. Or actually, I was just about 30. No, I was like 32. So over a decade. And so I know firsthand, the the whole supply chain, from the creation of the fiber all the way through to point of sale. So I really understand the industry. It's quite stressful and rigorous.
Yes. And we had talked in the past, like for my collections, they're not really they're not seasonal.
Yeah, so it takes a
you
lot
would
of
use the
stress off.
term,
Yeah.
evergreen. So
Yeah.
these are designs that are available year round. I add in new collections usually monthly. And I have 3 stores and I design for each store and they're a little bit different in their niche market. So I go through phases where for 1 month, I'm focused on one store of new designs. And then while I'm designing that, I see stuff and I'm like, I got to put that in my other store, right? So I'm like, that's how I wound up with so many stores, is because as I started with one, I got more ideas and inspiration. And I said, I need to get it out.
That's so great.
I need to get it out of my head. So I created a whole new store to house all of that stuff so that I could still create and express myself, but realizing that not everything belongs in Whimzy Tees. So I need to put it someplace else. And so I found homes for those or rooms for those items. But yeah, it's design for me is like constant. And there are times, as I said, inspiration can come anywhere. I could be out to dinner talking to someone and someone gives me an idea and they're like, hey, you should do this. And I'm like, wow, thank you. You're right. I did a fashion showcase in San Francisco. Now it was pre-COVID, it's almost 2 years ago. And a man came to me and he said, do you have anything with cats? And I said, online I do, but I don't have a whole lot with cats in it. He's like, you should do cats because my wife will buy anything with cats on it.
Yeah, there are a lot of people like that, actually. Cats are a thing. Who knew?
Yeah, I went home and I designed a whole collection with different, cats on it. Of course, putting my own spin with the different swatches, the digital images.
Do you have a cat?
Yes, but at the time I did not.
Okay, I was wondering if your cat got to be the cat, on all the prints.
Well, over the years, way back when I've had cats, but I've been a dog person mainly my entire life.
That's right. I remember we talked about that.
Yeah, but I do understand the cat obsession, just like people are obsessed with their dogs. So
I thought dog people were weird, and now I'm like one of them. I love my dog. She's the best. She's like sleeping over here.
Yeah, I used to dress them in clothes too, and now I'm working on designing a dog line
for
my dog.
Great. I love it.
Because I'm like, you should be wearing these things too.
Well, what I'm really present to is your fun. Like, there's just so much fun and creativity, and I think if anything, for our audience, like we need to have more fun and creativity in our lives. And right now, I'm noticing a lot of people are changing their career because they're not having fun and they feel stifled creatively, or they just don't. This has outgrown their current agreement, with the organization or company that they're working for or with. But how do you do it all? Generate this creative, fun career, be a mom. I know your kids are grown now, but you're never really, they're not fully grown. I guess your youngest is the same age as mine. So no, there's still a lot of parenting there.
You're always a mom. Yeah.
So how do you do it all? I mean, what's your kind of?
I'm not a super mom. So sometimes I fail in one area over another. Sometimes I'm excelling in one and not in the other. But my creativity is always there. And I find that is my big de-stressor for me.
Oh, cool.
So love that. Yeah, I use my creativity to de-stress.
Actually, you're like the second or third person that said that. No, and that's brilliant. And I love hearing that because sometimes creativity can be another to-do for a lot of women. But I love what you're saying. And I think that's an indication, isn't it? That if what you do also revitalizes you, there's something in that, right?
Yeah, yes, because it's a reward in and of itself. Because sometimes when I think I have hit the creativity wall and I'm like, how can I top this? What can I do next? I'm inundated with more inspiration. And so I amaze myself sometimes. So I give myself pats on the back and I say, wow, you did it again. You found something to inspire you. You created an entire line or even in a garment, But in addition to what I do and that I love and that's my passion, I also do some things that I had mentioned to you before in our previous conversation, Meditation has been big for me. I am a almost 30-year practitioner of meditation.
Mm.
I then, during my marriage, got into energy healing.
Mm-hmm.
And from that became a certified Reiki master. So energy healing is very important to me. And through that, I discovered my other obsession besides fashion is crystals.
Mm.
So my house is like a crystal palace. I've got crystals in every room.
Mm.
And they bring me great joy to look at them. They bring me healing to use them and place on my body, have in my environment. I've even used them with my animals. So I've used energy healing on my animals when they've been sick or had injuries. So yeah, all of those things. Salt baths. I take, bath soaps with my crystals.
I love that. Yeah, I love to do salt baths. I think salt baths are by far one of my most valuable restorative practices. I'm really into that because essentially the salt is crystal, right?
Mhm.
They're little crystals. Love that. And interesting. I'm also a Reiki healer, although I don't never like no one knows that about me. It's something I don't speak about publicly. But energy, it's all energy at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yep.
And energy is not energy like in a Red Bull, right? Energy is this, that's what actually vitality means. This certain quality of energy. And we know when we've got it and we know when we don't. We know when we see it, and we know also when we don't, like, oh, that person's sick or really tired or stressed out. So it's so beautiful. When you learn about energy healing, whether it's Reiki or some other form, it's totally it's like life changing.
Yes. And I have found that when I discovered Reiki energy healing, I went to a practitioner by accident that I came across her store one day on a walk with my kids. And one of my daughters was like, "What is that store?" And I said, "I don't know." And I went in and it was like a crystal metaphysical shop.
Mm.
And it was like it appeared out of nowhere. And it was good that that happened. And she pointed it out to me because I actually went to that person later on, spent time in the store, started collecting like little crystals. And then in talking to her, found out that she did energy healing.
Mm-hmm.
And because of what I was going through in my marriage at the time, because my marriage was not good for most of it.
Oh, sorry. It's so tough. Yeah.
And I was internalizing a lot of that.
Mm.
So I
As
started
most
going to
healers
her for
do.
energy. Yeah. I
Oh.
started because you have no one to talk to. It's like,
Yeah. And you feel
um,
crazy, and it's like you got this kids and you want to make it work. I mean, it's such a hard thing. But
and people assume too, because of perhaps your lifestyle, that everything is wonderful and, it's so great. And you can't tell them because then they're like,
yeah.
"Oh no, you're making a deal out of something that doesn't exist." So
Yeah,
then
or
you just stop telling people.
you're not grateful for what you
Yeah.
have, or
So yeah.
just make it work already.
Yeah.
Like if it were
So-
that easy.
So, yeah. And discovering that metaphysical shop, going in and she would be healing on me. I was going like 3 times a week, sometimes more.
Wow.
Just to be
Wow.
okay.
I know.
And she finally said to me, she's like, "I think it would be more cost effective if you just learned how to do Reiki energy on yourself."
And it worked.
I was
Yeah,
like,
that's great.
"Yeah, you
That's
could save some
great.
money."
Yeah.
So
Well, and
that's what I did.
yeah, and you can you can use it for your kids, you can use it remotely, you can use it, on people you care about. And actually, at some point, I don't know if the same thing happened for you, but I don't really have control over when it gets activated. I'll feel like my hands get really hot. I'll just be sitting down, like chatting with friends or someone in a restaurant or anywhere. And then all of a sudden my hands get really hot and I feel the Reiki energy like moving through. And I'm like, oh, I guess somebody here needs healing. I'm not always like fully participating. Like I think at some point you make an agreement that it just flows through you. I don't know if that's been your experience or not.
Well, I actually did make that verbal agreement with the universe. And I said with healing, because I also did massage. So a long time ago, there was another, when I was married, trying to discover myself. And once my kids were school age, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I went to massage school, became a massage therapist. And so I used the massage therapy as a way of healing people. And I brought in Reiki. So there were some people who signed up for that because it wasn't something I did automatically. It had to be an agreement that you wanted that type of healing. And it was an additional service and a cost. And so I would do Reiki healing on them. But then I looked at it as that's one off. It's like, I can't heal a bunch of people one off at a time, right? Because I'm one person. So then I made the agreement with the universe and I said, I want to be a source of healing, not just physically touching people, but my presence, my intention, and so yeah, thought, intention, presence, touch. So all of those things, so that if I saw someone who was in need, I could send them healing. I could change the energy in a room, which I have done, to bring more positivity and love into an environment or into a conflict. Because sometimes, every time you go out, sometimes there can be a conflict.
Well, so, even in our conversation, the first time we spoke, like I felt that you brought that to the conversation. So I think it just follows you wherever you go. And I feel it and see it infused in your work. So that's pretty powerful.
But the positivity and
your presence, your touch, there were two other words you used: presence, touch,
intention.
Yes, your intention. That's the most important one in your work. Absolutely. Absolutely. So if people want to see your collection and or even purchase it internationally, where should they go?
Well, they can find me on all social media, but also at my store, which is Whimzy with a Z, tees.com.
And we'll put that in the show notes as well. So if you're looking, if you guys want to see her collection and you want to support what she's doing and feel her presence and her intention and her touch through her work, be sure to visit her website and spread the word.
And just a side note, we have over 40 collections and over 3,000 products. So there's a lot there. There are a lot of themes, from fairies to animals to vintage prints. By vintage poster prints. So there's something for everybody, from young and old. So kids love my stuff, adults love my stuff from all ages. So we're talking 60, 70-year-olds that wear it, but kids, especially when I wear the Fairyland collection, because they like to see that and it's playful. And I want everyone to play. I want people to have fun. I want them to tap back into that inner child.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Thank you for that reminder. And we didn't have a chance to talk enough about it, but Anita is also a mama bear. Just would love to hear some more insight on another episode, perhaps around kind of child rearing, single motherhood, and all the stuff that comes with that, right? That's like endless, but
yes, I have a lot to share.
I know you do. And so that's why I feel like we need to do a part 2. But in the meantime, thank you so much for being a guest on the show. And the reason why I really wanted Anita to be on the show, not only because of her positive energy and that what she brings to the space, but audacious leaders are women who are willing to try and sometimes even stumble and sometimes even fall and then get back up again and keep doing it. And I believe you are really an example of that. And that is an inspiration for us all.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I try.
That's all we can do. Okay. Until the next time. Thanks, Anita.
All right. Thank you.